From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
I'm John Cole. I'm the director of the Center for the Book in the Library of Congress, and it's my pleasure to welcome you once again to our annual Américas Award. It's a pleasure for both the Center for the Book and the Hispanic Division of the Library of Congress to be involved in this. We are just coming off, I must say, the National Book Festival, which was this past weekend, where we introduced yet another awards program, the Library of Congress Literacy Awards, which are funded by David Rubenstein, who is the person who is also a major private supporter of the book festival. So I'm thinking awards in many different ways today, but I must say that this is really one of the long-standing award ceremonies that we have not only enjoyed hosting it, but at which I have learned an awful lot. And part of that has resulted in increased attendance at the National Book Festival by authors that I've met here. So no promises, but we'd love to be involved with this kind of a program. I would like to turn this over to our co-sponsor, Georgette Dorn, who is the chief of the library's Hispanic division, and she will move us ahead in the program. Let's give Georgette a round of applause.
Thank you, John. It's wonderful. Every year we sponsor the Américas Award for 21 years. This is the 21st year. So it's a great pleasure to have our wonderful author here, Sonia Manzano. We just recorded her for almost an hour for the library's Archive of Hispanic Literature, which has 700 authors from all over Latin America, the Iberian Peninsula, the Caribbean, and also in English. They use Hispanics, Latinos, and in French for the French Caribbean, in Dutch for the Dutch Caribbean, and in some indigenous languages like Zapotec, Quechua, and Nahuatl. So the Hispanic collection, the Luso Hispanic collection and Caribbean collections are more than 4 million books and about 15 million items, almost 10% of the library's holdings. We receive about 1,100 books a week, thousands and thousands a year. We could almost form every month a little public library. That's how many books come. But of course, we don't keep every book. We only keep the ones that are important and have lasting value, such as Sonia Manzano's La Revolución de Evelyn. Well, I don't want to waste your time. You don't want to listen to me. You want to listen to the award winner. And I'm glad to introduce Claire Gonzalez, who is going to be the anfitriona.
Welcome, and thanks to John Cole, Georgette Dorn, Center for the Book, and the Hispanic Division of the Library of Congress. On behalf of the Center for the CLASP, the Consortium of Latin American Studies program, we would like to welcome you to the 2013 Américas Award. This year, we celebrate a milestone for the Américas Award. We are turning 20 years old. The award was founded in 1993 by Julie Klein of University of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She saw the need to highlight and to recognize authentic and wonderful works of literature, children's literature around Latino and Latin American, around Latino and Latin America. The Américas Award, again, is sponsored by the Consortium of Latin American Studies, whose mission is to promote all facets of Latin American studies throughout the world. The broad range of activities of CLASP include the encouragement of research activities, funding of professional workshops, advancement of citizen outreach activities, and development of teaching aids for the classroom. The Américas Award is given to up to 2 books, awarded to up to 2 authors each year, and they're selected for their distinctive literary quality, cultural contextualization, exceptional integration of text, illustration and design, and something that is unique about the Américas Award and that we're very proud of, is that the books are selected especially for their potential for classroom use. The goal of the award is to link the Americas and to reach beyond geographic borders, focusing instead on cultural heritages within the hemisphere. This year, the Americas Award Review Committee was made up of teachers, faculty, and community activists from Oregon, Louisiana, Washington, D.C., New Mexico, and Connecticut. Hope Crandall, who is here with us today, Hope, hello, served as chair of the committee. In the fall, books are submitted, and beginning in early spring, the committee gathers in conference calls for a series of meetings to determine the winners, honorable mentions, and commended titles. These conversations are enlightening, insightful, many times they are spirited, and they show the passion that the committee members feel about the diverse cultures of Latin America. Particularly insightful to me are always the discussions around the classroom applications of the books. I do not coordinate, I co-coordinate this award. Vanderbilt co-coordinates this award with Tulane University and with Denise Woltering, who is here. So I'd like to recognize Tulane right now and Denise as our co-coordinator. And we're happy to do that. Denise and I are extremely grateful for the hard work of the Américas Award Committee and the care that they put into choosing each year's award winners. And at this time, I'd like to recognize them by saying the names of people who are here and saying the names of those who were not able to join us. As I mentioned, Hope Crandall is the chair of the committee. She is here with us today. America Calderon, who is not here with us today, but also is in the Washington, D.C. area. Barbara D'Ambroso, who is here. Aaron Forbes is here in the front row. And Kira Phillip Schooner, who is at University of New Mexico, is not here with us today. Without their hard work and careful consideration, the Americas Award would not be possible. So thank you very much. At this time, I would like to pass the microphone to Aaron Forbes, and we are going to begin by talking about the honorable mention books. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Good afternoon. O digo buenas tardes. So I wanted to introduce Martín de Porres, which is our honorable mention title for this year, written by Gary D. Schmidt and illustrated by David Diaz. This book was chosen. We looked at the literary quality of the book. We looked at cultural contextualization. We looked at the integration of text and design and illustrations and the classroom use, the same as we do with all titles. This book, one of the things that stood out most about it was the colorful watercolor and mixed media illustrations. Beautiful, beautiful illustrations, as you can see behind me. And the vibrant colors really made a good setting in the back for the actual plot of the story. So the story is based on San Martín de Porres, who was the patron saint of interracial harmony and social justice. San Martín de Porres was a patron saint from Peru, Lima, during the colony. And he came from the father of a Spanish nobleman, and his mother was a slave. So we're familiar with the history, the colonial period, and just the weight that carried at that time. He came from a very, very poor family, and he was brought into the Dominican Brotherhood by way of his curing powers. So this is a beautiful, beautiful story, not just about the culture of Peru during the colony, and not just in terms of illustration, but most importantly about universal themes of fraternity, racial equality, justice, poverty, and compassion. And this is what our title this year, why our title was named as the honorable mention. It was also deemed worthy of classroom use. It has many applications in the classroom. And altogether, we found it an outstanding example of an America's book. So this is our honorable mention for the year. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'd like to talk with you this afternoon about two titles, two extraordinary books, which we put on the commended title list. In their tone, their accessibility, and their intent, they're very different, and yet both of them, each of them in its own way, is enormously captivating. Drummer Boy of John John, written by Mark Greenwood and illustrated by Frané Lasek, is based on the inspired childhood of the founder of the steel pan drum in Trinidad, its national instrument. This guy's name, if you don't know him, is Winston Simon. It's a fun, exuberant book right from the first page to the end page. The colors and everything about it is very exuberant. It takes place at carnival time, and little Winston is just determined that he's going to have the best band of all in all of Trinidad. So one day, unfortunately, he doesn't know how to play any instrument, but one day in the junkyard, as he disposes of a mango seed, it goes jing, jing, jing off some various metal containers which have been thrown away, and that's his inspiration. He says, oh boy, I think I can do this. The rest is kind of history. He goes on and he creates a band, and with his friends, they win the best band. The book is it's lively in every way. The colors are vibrant, Caribbean colors, very, very bright. The language is just as lively as the colors, and the illustrations just show just this lively movement of everything that's happened during carnival time. So we love this book, and it's a commended title. A second commended title is In Darkness by Nick Lake. This book is equally magical, but whereas Drummer Boy of John John is all color and sound and fun, this book it's for young adults, and it's quite the opposite. In it, a 14-year-old gang member in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, is trapped in the rubble of the 2010 earthquake. And as he lies there in the darkness, he speaks directly to his hoped-for rescuers. Why? Because he hopes that maybe if he tells them his story, they'll forgive him. They'll understand him, and they'll forgive him. His life, this guy's name is Shorty. Shorty's life has been one of deprivation, of violence, of loss, but also of family devotion. And as he recounts the episodes of his life, he does so in a very colloquial, kind of matter-of-fact way. But at times, his thoughts turn rather philosophical, too. So Shorty was born in darkness, and that's how he expects to die. And now as he lies in this collapsed building in the darkness again, he suffers hunger, he suffers terrible thirst, and he's been injured. And he begins to dream, or perhaps hallucinate. And in his dreams, he's taken away to a different period of history, Haitian history. He's taken away to the period of independence. And he becomes the leader of Haiti's independence, Toussaint Louverture. Through his musings and through his imaginings, we journey. We journey back in time, and we journey very deeply into the psyches of two very different people. And as we do so, we realize how very intimately connected the past is with the present. Along the way, we come to appreciate the importance, the power of political ideals, the importance of religious ideas, and the power of the human spirit. And we're also forced to contemplate for ourselves our own power to escape the darkness, or not. So we congratulate the authors and illustrator of these two magnificent books.
And our final commended title of the year for the Americas Awards is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe, written by Benjamin Alire Sáenz. This book is set in a Mexican-American community on a border town in Texas, and it's not your typical account of life in a Mexican-American community. It's a book that is focused on breaking down stereotypes. They have one family that is from a typical working class family background, and then the other family that is more of a middle class academia background. And the two boys from these families, they build a friendship and what develops into a romantic relationship between the two boys. They discover friendship, loyalty, love, and all of this in a way that breaks down traditional stereotypes that we think about in the Latino community. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of work in terms of literary quality, has an excellent prose quality about it. Dialogue between the two boys from the very first page to the end, you watch them grow from young adolescents into young men and watch their friendship and their relationship develop. This book was awarded for its literary quality, also for its cultural contextualization. The cultural details may not abound like you would see in some other books, but you're looking at family values, you're looking at friendship, all of this through the lens of a Latino family, two Latino families. And finally, it was awarded the commended title because of its application in the classroom, looking at universal themes of friendship, loyalty, and trust between these two boys. So, Aristotle and Dante, our final commended title for the year.
We have now come to our award. We are delighted to present to Sonia Manzano the 2013 Américas Award for her novel, The Revolution of Evelyn Serrano. How fortunate we are to have raised our children, our grandchildren, and all these generations with you introducing all of us, all our generations, to the Latino culture. Thank you. And now we have this book from Maria. We are delighted to present you with the 2013 Américas Award for The Revolution, the Evolution of Evelyn Serrano. We thank you for drawing us into New York City in the late 1960s to meet Rosa Maria Evelyn del Carmen Serrano. Evelyn, she does not want to be hemmed in by the ubiquitous Latin names of Rosa or Maria or Carmen. She's struggling to define her place in her family and Spanish Harlem community. With the unexpected arrival of her very flamboyant Puerto Rican grandmother, family dynamics shift in the house, in the home, while political activism develops in the streets. As she learns of the role her family had played in the politics of Puerto Rico, she slowly steps into the activism generated by the young lords in her own neighborhood. And readers, we invite you to read, enjoy, and learn from The Revolution of Evelyn Serrano. The Américas Award Committee chose this novel for recognition because of its depiction of an important time, place, and multicultural cast in the United States. It is an accessible coming-of-age novel with much humor, well-rounded characters, and a satisfying ending. We urge students and teachers to write and employ literature studies centered on the Revolution of Evelyn Serrano. It combines the specifics of Puerto Rican history and culture on the island and the mainland with the universal struggles of growing up and finding one's place in a loving family. Thank you. Please come.
On behalf of the Consortium of Latin American
Oh, thank you
Studies
so much.
Program, we also, as a tradition,
Thank you very much.
we love to give our award winners with a weaving to continue weaving stories. So we have a beautiful mola for you.
Thank you very much. Very nice. Let's hold it up so we can have a nice picture here. On television, it's all about getting a picture of something.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll give this to you. Should I go up?
Yes, please come.
All right. And I'll put this here for now. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to be here. And I just wanted you to see the little bit of me on Sesame Street. So you can see what my life has been on that show compressed to 2 or 3 minutes. Because I'm in Washington, I feel that I have to talk about the first family. When Barack Obama was elected, we at Sesame Street bemoaned the fact that the first family's daughters were well past the Sesame Street age. Until we realized that Michelle and Barack themselves had probably watched a lot of Sesame Street as a child and might have been touched by the show as children. I witnessed this firsthand when the cast was invited to the White House for the Easter egg roll hunt a couple of years ago. And I'm telling you that Michelle Obama was much more excited about meeting us than Malia and Sasha were. I have to admit that over the years, I've had my fair share of recognition, both publicly and privately. And recently, I had some indirect recognition. I was just in Puerto Rico last week, and on my way home at the airport, a young woman with 2 small children stared and smiled at me, and I smiled back, and she smiled some more, and I smiled some more, and then she came over and held out her hand and said, "Aren't you Inés Ramos?" And I said, "No, I'm sorry, I'm not." And she continued with tears welling in her eyes, "But you must be somebody, my heart is beating so." And I said to her, "Well, you might know me as Maria from Sesame Street." And she said, "I knew that you had something to do with my children. You are Maria." Then she threw herself into my arms for a great big hug. It was a lovely moment of recognition. The Américas Award is a wonderful recognition. And not only that, I know that you folks know who I really am. Receiving this has given me the opportunity to reflect on my life. I now realize that I was born in the best of times because I have seen remarkable changes in the society that I live in. I take every opportunity in a public forum to say the following. My parents are from Puerto Rico. I was born in New York, which makes me a New Yorican, just like Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States and has been since the Spanish-American War. Puerto Ricans have been U.S. citizens since 1921 because I recently learned this on PBS just the other night of a woman named Isabel Gonzalez. Shortly after the Spanish-American War, after the U.S. had acquired Puerto Rico as a territory from Spain, Isabel Gonzalez came to New York and was sent to Ellis Island. Well, she was incensed. She felt that she had just been stripped of her Spanish citizenship to end up having no citizenship at all. She took her complaint all the way to the Supreme Court and finally paved the way for gaining U.S. citizenship for all Puerto Ricans. That said, let me go back to my early years of being, like many Latinos in the 1950s, an invisible citizen. I was raised in the South Bronx, watched a lot of television, and always wondered how come I never saw anybody who looked like me or lived in the same neighborhood that I lived in. Latin people were simply not recognized or represented in any media. That's why I was so shocked and amazed the first time I saw Sesame Street. I was a student at Carnegie Mellon University. I walked into the student union, and there on the television set was a very young, very bald James Earl Jones reciting the alphabet. As the letters flashed over his head, he recited the alphabet in a very deliberate manner. A, B, C. I thought I was watching a show that taught lip reading. Mr. Hooper, the candy store owner, looked just like the candy store owner on my block when I was a kid. The stoop was everybody's stoop. Then I saw the characters of Susan and Gordon, a cheerful, warm, urban black married couple who were so real. I was amazed. Let me remind you that in 1969, you never saw a person of color on television. And if you did, they weren't a loving married couple like Susan and Gordon. You did not see Asian people, and you certainly did not see Hispanic people either. Because of this racial and cultural discrepancy in the media, Sesame Street hired me to provide an image that inner city Hispanic children could relate to. I've been wooed and married and even had a baby on the show. When I think about it, we were the first reality show without the whining. Maybe I should clear something up about my life on Sesame Street. I am not really married to Emilio Delgado, who you saw me marry on the show. But I'll tell you a little story about that. Emilio Delgado, who plays Luis, and I were once recognized by someone who gushed and was thrilled and was very complimentary and said how great it was that her children should see real love on television and get married on television, and how happy she was that her children should see real love between real people. Emilio and I exchanged glances and decided to tell her the truth. We told her that we were not really married. She was taken aback, sucked in her breath, and said, "It's okay, as long as you really love each other." My real life has been as interesting, if not as predictable. My parents came from Puerto Rico in the 40s, not on an Eastern Airlines or a Pan Am plane, but on military transport planes. They could get to the mainland for $30, not quite first class. He was a laborer and she was a seamstress. I walked a cultural tightrope existing and growing up in two worlds at once, always reconciling the world of living in Bronx barrios with the world at large. At school, we hoped for a white, snowy Christmas, when at home we prayed for fair weather so we could go on parrandas, which meant filling your car with food and drink and instruments and kids, and going from house to house singing Christmas carols. As a kid, nothing gave me greater pleasure than eavesdropping on grown-ups talking about this mysterious island of Puerto Rico. Did mangoes really fall onto the street? I quickly imagined 3rd Avenue in the Bronx festooned with ripe fruit. Could you really drink water from the waterfalls? I'd see faucets sticking out of crevices in rocks at the park. Did roosters really sing? I'd envision roosters dressed as Elvis Presley, singing into microphones. As a real little kid, Pura Belprez books of Puerto Rican folklore gave me the opportunity to glean further desperately needed information about my culture. And it was a good thing, because not seeing myself represented in the world was making me wonder how I could contribute to a society that didn't see me. I think I've remedied that for other Latin children by being on television. And I'm thrilled that I've gone from representing on television to representing in literature, which of course brings me to the hot topic of the state of diversity in literature today. Certainly there are many more diverse books now than there used to be when I was reading Dick and Jane. Scholastic's list is chock full of them, yet a recent NPR piece was pointed out to me that was entitled "As Demographics Grow, Shift, Kids' Books Stay Stubbornly White." It stated that even though a quarter of the school kids are Latino, only 3% of the books are about or written by Latinos. You would know it from this group and all of the literature and all the books that I've just seen at the Library of Congress. And that this was a recent article, and that the books that are diverse don't drive bestseller lists. Well, of course, there are exceptions. Sherman Alexie's book, The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian, is a bestseller. But I'd like to share a thought on bestseller lists. I wonder if more diverse books aren't on the bestseller list because of political correctness. Political correctness is timely, appropriate, and makes us responsible citizens, but it's a two-sided sword. Sesame Street could never have happened in the politically correct atmosphere we live in today. When Sesame Workshop issued a DVD of early shows called, I think it was just called The Early Days, it contained a disclaimer about Cookie Monster. In it, he was playing Alistair Cookie, who was the host of Masterpiece Theater on PBS. Cookie Monster was playing him, and it was called Monsterpiece Theater. And he was smoking a pipe, and then he ate the pipe. The folks at Sesame Street were afraid that those early shows of Cookie Monster talking and then eating the pipe was going to be misconstrued as advocating for kids smoking pipes, I don't know, or eating pipes. For years, we were criticized for not having a Hispanic puppet as popular as Cookie Monster, but can you imagine a Hispanic character whose sole character trait was smoking pipes and eating cookies? Today, I wonder if we could tolerate Diary of a Wimpy Muchacho, or The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Bobo. Could we accept the opening of a children's book that begins with the possible slaughter of a pig? Like the opening of Charlotte's Web. That's the most hilarious line I ever read, is the opening of that book, where immediately the pig is in danger. It's a thorny question, but thanks to forums such as the Américas Award and people like you, we can have discussions about these things and come up with solutions to help us navigate through these minefields. I got into writing for Sesame Street because I questioned the Hispanic content on the show and thought there were more ways of expressing culture than ethnic foods or music. The producer responded by saying, "Why don't you try writing some of these Hispanic items yourself?" And I have to tell you, I backpedaled. I had never written anything in my life. In fact, I always told a crummy joke about how our household was so devoid of the written word or paper or pencils, we often used my mother's eyebrow pencil to write a phone number on the kitchen wall. I didn't realize I could read from a book. I realized I could read from advertisements. I was on the 3rd Avenue elevator train with my sister, wondering what the ads above my head said. And I asked her, and she said, rolling her eyes, because my sister was born exasperated, "Why don't you try reading it?" And I thought, reading it, me? I thought reading was something you did at school with Dick and Jane books. I didn't realize you could try to read words anywhere, that reading was something you could do every day. I tried reading the ads, and oh joy, I could. I trembled with excitement the rest of the way home, reading ads for nylon stockings, reading about the health benefits of smoking Chesterfield cigarettes, and reading all about the hopes and dreams of Miss Subway 1957 to my heart's content. But it was Frank McCourt's Angela's Ashes that inspired me to write mini picture book memoirs based on my life. No Dogs Allowed is about a family who overloads their car with people and kids to get out of the city and go to the beach, only to find that there are no dogs allowed when they get there. It's exactly the image of Latinos that Jan Brewer, governor of Arizona, seems to have issues with. In my picture book, A Box Full of Kittens, a young girl gets distracted enough to miss out on an important event. My Aunt Benita, close to giving birth and not having a phone for emergencies, inspired that story. I always tell myself to write honestly, even when it's unflattering, because sincerity will reach more people. I went back to my feelings as a disenfranchised, marginalized person in writing The Revolution of Evelyn Serrano. The book takes place in '69 when Sesame Street was first aired, and many other historically meaningful events happened. The moon landing, Students for a Democratic Society, Woodstock, and of course what I've chosen to write about, the background for my story, is the Young Lords. They were a group of young people who brought attention to the injustices going on in their community. I'm thrilled that The Revolution of Evelyn Serrano has been so well received. I hope it inspires readers to want to reconnect from wherever they came from, and I hope it empowers young people. We count on young people to show us the way. We hope that they create a better society than we have created. Take a moment to think about the movie E.T., Spielberg's big hit. Remember how the audience gasped with delight when the kids escaped the well-meaning adults and took off on the air in bicycles? We love that. We love that feeling that the children will set us free, that the children will see the way. I say, keep those kids inspired. They are our only hope. Your America's Award has motivated me to try harder than ever to reach them through my writing. Thank you, CLASP, America's Award, for this recognition, and gracias for all the terrific work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I did just want to recognize a few of the institutions from CLASP that paid special tribute to this year's Américas Award. Florida International University, The Ohio State University, Tulane University, University of Florida, University of New Mexico, Stanford University, University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and Vanderbilt University. And special thanks to Georgette Dorn, Catalina Gomez, Ann Bonnie, and John Cole, and Angela Newbern. Thank you so much for everything. We have a special cake celebrating our 20th year outside, so please stick around. Sonia will be around a short moment to be signing, and there's some books for sale right out back, so thank you.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.